And they showed us a giant bones of people that were eaten there.
My, oh my. My, oh my. A kiss, and so I did.
Hey now squad, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Bells. If you're new here and you're wondering why not later, well, on this channel we learn from the past, plan for the future, and live in the epic today. Do you guys like my space buns today? It was my, I don't want to put my hair in a ponytail, I don't want to wash it, so I'm just gonna put it into like little bear buns. So I'm like a bear. Today we're going to be talking about the time that I went to a third world country. This third world country is called Solomon Islands. The reason I went here was for a mission trip. We had to do a lot of preparation going into this. We had to learn a bunch of skits, we had to learn how to preach, we had to learn how to approach people. Honestly, it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been. We had a 3-month period beforehand where we just learned and learned all about God and all about ourselves so we could be effective in missions. One of the differences between Australia, United States, and Solomon Islands is what we had to wear. Women had to be super modest there, and so we had to wear skirts and long pants, long flowy pants, things that didn't outline our butts. And it was super duper hot all the time there. Like, you would take a shower and you'd get out and you'd be wet from the shower, but you'd also be wet from sweat. That's how hot it was. And they didn't have they had no type of air conditioning unless you're like one of those rich, unless you're like super duper rich. So needless to say, when there was a fan around, we'd be sitting underneath it or just like really up next close to it. One of the houses we were in, they had a fan that was in one part of the room, but you could only feel it when you sat right underneath it, and so everyone would just fight to sit in the chair underneath the fan. We had a guide, his name was Ronnie, and this guy, oh my goodness, he's my spirit animal, I think. His favorite thing to do was sleep. He'd sleep, and then he'd go worship God at night, and then he'd go back to sleep. It was super duper funny as well. Some of the ministry that we got to do was worship. I am a singer, and so I was able to lead worship and sing at those types of places. If any of you know Who You Say I Am, look it up. It's a really good song. We sang it for the kids in one of the villages, and in the morning, that's what we woke up to. It was the cutest thing. It's like, yes I am. These kids were just going ham. It was honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. These kids totally fell in love with us, and we fell in love with them. We were in one village, but there was a town 2 miles away, and these kids would just take us there, and we would go buy our groceries there. There was lots of fruit, fresh fruit, every single day. We would have to go to the market to get food, otherwise it would go bad. It was just really cool to get to do that and just like learn their type of customs and their types of ways. Is that if you don't grow it, then you have to go every single day to get food because there's no fridges. There's no way you can even keep it good because there's a bunch of animals everywhere. There's insects that can just get into it. We had to be really creative. We ate a lot of cassava roots. So that's it's kind of like a potato, but it's a root. And taro root, it's like a purple potato. I like the taro more than I like the cassava. When you would go into a village, the villagers would hear about it, like the village moms would hear about it, and then they would bring you food. And man, did we try some wild stuff. There was this thing that looked like a tongue, but I'm pretty sure it was a starfish. I didn't try it. Don't tell anybody. But it was a thought that counts. Like, you literally just come into these places, and these people fall in love with you, you fall in love with them, and they make you food, and they treat you like your family. One of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced. Especially because in the first world, we aren't like that with everyone all around, which we really should be. Especially, like I was talking about the kids, they would take us to different waterfalls. Oh my goodness, and we would get to play with them, or we had volleyball, and we would get to play volleyball with them. And if you're in with the kids, then you're in with the parents. Like, if you love on the kids, the parents are like, oh yeah, Like, we'll talk to you, we'll have a conversation with you. I miss it. I really do. I miss those guys, their little faces, and I just wonder how they are. And so I'm so excited to go back and see them. One time they took us to this beach, and this is at every single beach actually. There's a bunch of shipwrecks all up and down the beach, just rusted boats that were never cleaned up, and you see ships in the water all of the time. I've never seen that before. It's a whole new world out there. When we were in the plane, I looked down and you think you see buildings, but all you see is just little like tin sheds. Nothing like you see when you go to LA or to Australia. Like there's buildings for miles here, but for there's just, it's jungle and it's tin buildings. We were able to stay in 3 houses because we stayed in 3 villages. The first one was called Ambu, and it was this blue, it was like this blue house on stilts. It was right in front of the place where they put all their garbage. They would either burn their garbage or they would just put it in the water. There was one room over here for the boys, and one room for the girls, and then in the middle there was this kitchen. And they went and they bought us a stove. We had to use propane the whole time to make our food. They don't have forks, they don't use forks. They only use spoons, which was super duper cool. Well, kind of annoying at first, but when I came home, I was like, I just want to use a spoon for everything. Honestly, if you think about it, you really only need a spoon unless you're trying to cut something. The second house was extraordinarily hot. It was the tiniest thing ever. So we had to sleep in Mozzie domes. It's like a tiny tent where it's an open tiny tent where mosquitoes can't get in. And we had 7 girls in this tiny room. I don't even know how to explain how tiny this room was. Maybe like a regular baby's bedroom for 7 Mozzie domes. Because we didn't want snakes in there, we didn't want any type of creatures crawling in with us to sleep with us, because that could happen. That could totally, I was so afraid that would happen. Because your girls, it's not like snakes, like they are horrifying to me. In this village, they washed our clothes by hand because they don't have washing machines. So the moms would come and they'd be like, do you guys have any clothes to wash? Mind you, there was 11 of us, or 12 of us, including Ronnie, and they washed our clothes by hand. That's 11 people's clothes. Disgusting. And they would dry them and everything. But at this place, it was raining nonstop. And when rain happens, everything is kind of canceled. Like school's canceled, church is canceled, everything's canceled because no one wants to go out into the rain. We went out exploring at this village with the kids, and they showed us a giant. Well, I mean, a giant's grave. But I've never seen a giant's grave before. This guy was supposedly 12 feet tall, and he was just buried by these trees that look like Avatar. What we found out while we were there is that just in like 1984 they stopped eating people, or were supposed to stop eating people. I was blown away, but we were told that right by the water there was a bunch of bones of people that were eaten there. Like a path of bones of people who have been eaten. I wouldn't want to get eaten, but that was such a cool experience. The last village that we went to was called Far Out. At this village, we were able to do house ministry, and so that means we were able to go up to people's doors and say hello to them. The houses were nothing compared to the ones we stayed in. Like, they were super duper cool. They were shacks made by hand. You'd make a house, you'd get a wife, you'd have kids. I'm just in awe, honestly. I don't know if you guys can tell. I was looking at the pictures today, and I'm just in awe as to what I experienced. Like, it's unreal to me. Like, even now I'm looking back and I'm like, what? What did I experience? That is wild. I think one of the coolest things about the last village that we went to was that I was really missing home, and I was telling God, I was like, God, I'm missing home. I want to see someone. I don't have my phone on me. It doesn't work. I decided to leave my phone at home back in Australia so it wouldn't distract me, and I wouldn't be able to use it anyway because of no cell service. So I was praying this prayer like, God, I really miss home. Please bring me comfort. And all of a sudden, my friend, my legit friend from home at church from North Dakota, she shows up in Solomon Islands doing the same thing I'm doing. She's with Youth with a Mission, and she shows up in Solomon Islands, and I get to see her. I get to see her for maybe 2 hours one day, and then I get to see her for an entire day and spend an entire day with her. Oh my goodness, God is so cool. He is so cool. She ended up staying in the exact same first village that we stayed in, and so we got to experience that together, which was super cool. We were on an island called Maleta. So first we were in Honiara, that's where our plane landed, and then we had to go to Maleta, and that was an island away, and I think it was a 6-hour boat ride. Oh my goodness. We took a ship the first time. I get very seasick, car sick, any type of way. I made it till 10, right? So we got on this boat at 4, and then we're sitting and we're swaying back and forth, and I'm fine. I take a nap, I get up, I take a drink of water, and it all comes back. Oh my goodness, the boat ride was the worst for me. And we were almost there. I think 45 minutes left of this boat ride, and your girl just throws up all over. It was a journey. For sure it was. But on the way back, we ended up taking a faster boat, the 3-hour ride instead of the 6-hour. It was like a plane, actually. The seats in the ship looked like a plane, like a really nice plane, but it was still a boat. I still kind of got sick, but it was really comfortable. And I got to sit with my friend. Her name is Shoshanna. You should go follow her. She sings really well, and she's got a nice face. But anyways, I think the biggest thing I've learned from this experience was that everything was on island time, and that means everything's super slow. You'd say something was at 8 and they'd show up at 10. They would ring bells instead of go by the clocks and stuff. You'd say something's at 6 and they'd show up at 8. Because they're so relationship oriented. They'd want to be on time, right? They'd be like, oh, we have to take a shower, we have to feed our kids, we have to help our neighbor, all the different things. Like, we have to make food for you guys. I really want to be like that. I mean, I want to be on time because I live in the first world, but I want to be okay with being inconvenienced, because actually people aren't an inconvenience. And I know actually that that's probably the biggest thing I've learned from going there. And I'm super thankful to have gone. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to follow me on the IG, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be up to date with the now. You guys are fantastic and beloved. Worship the socks, brother. Hey there, bud. Hey there, bud. Hey there, little buddy. They worship the socks, brother.